Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Crowd Chatter podcast. And today is going to be the NFC North, reviewing the offseason for the NFC North. So this is a bad division. And this division really is wide open. When you look at it, all these teams really suck. I mean, there's really no other way of putting that. They all are bad, and so it's really wide open for anybody to win. Of course, I kind of doubt the Lions will because they're the Lion. I doubt the Lions will because they're the Lions. They always just seem to figure out ways to blow games. I kind of doubt that they'll even be able to do that. But here we have the Chicago Bears first. We'll start with we have the Chicago Bears. So we look over at them in terms of free agents. They got Trevor Simeon, 2-year deal. They traded for N'Keal Harry from the Patriots, so that was an interesting one. While also getting a lot of other receivers and signing Equanimous Brown, Byron Pringle, Dante Pettis, David Moore, Tajay Sharp. So, they're obviously looking to improve the receiving core for Justin Fields, who was absolutely decimated in the backfield last year by defensive linemen. Of course, they also signed some offensive linemen, getting Riley Reef. So, the Bears, they're obviously looking to build around Justin Fields. That's the quarterback of the future. They need to give that guy some options, and that's exactly what they're trying to do while showing up was just becoming more of a patch job on the defensive end at the defensive side at this point. But the Bears definitely, obviously, they need a receiving core, and that's what they've always needed, and that's what they've been trying to get for however long now. So we look at their draft class, and the first two picks were both defensive players. So they got Kyler Gordon, a corner from Washington, and then Jaquan Brisker, safety at Penn State. I love Jaquan Brisker. That's a good pick. And they got Velas Jones, receiver from Tennessee, and they also just got some players late in the draft. So, overall, not a terrible draft class for Chicago. I like the first two picks, and I don't really know much about the rest. But Brisker is a good player from Penn State, and then Kyler Gordon, solid from Washington. Those will both be good, impactful players in the defensive end. But the Bears' problem still remains on the offensive end. They need to get some life over there. They need somebody that Fields can throw to, and they need a line that can protect the poor guy in the backfield. But we'll see if anything changes for Chicago. But they're still not good. They could win a division if Justin Fields breaks out next year or not next year, this year, and has like a really good season and absolutely tears it up. I'm sure it's possible, but I don't see it as likely for Chicago. But it certainly is a bad division that anybody can win. Next up, we have the Detroit Lions, who I am actually we have our very own Detroit Lions, who actually I am very excited to see this year because they, for once, weren't stupid and did something right. Yes, the Detroit Lions did something right. Hard to believe, I know, but they did something right. And we'll start with the free agents, of which they signed David Blau and Tim Boyle, both backups, of course. Because we still have Jared Goff as the starting quarterback. We'll see if that changes next year if we tank again. Hopefully we do, because I want Bryce Young. And a wide receiver, we actually signed DJ Chark for an interesting 1-year deal, but for $10 million guaranteed. So that's an interesting signing there. Of course, we obviously need wide receivers. We need to surround Amon-Ra St. Brown with actually good players. So DJ Chark is a start. And then we also re-signed both Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds. Signed ourselves a center. We got Charles Harris back on a 2-year deal. Alex Anzalone's back. Jared Davis, we actually re-signed. That was funny seeing him sign again. And then we re-signed Tracy Walker. And that was what we did really in free agency. But the draft, was really where the Lions killed it. As they got Aiden Hutchinson fell to him at number 2. The Jaguars decided to take Trayvon Walker instead of Aiden Hutchinson. So the Lions pounced on the great Michigan end and got Aiden Hutchinson, and then shocked everyone by making a trade with the Minnesota Vikings and trading up 20 uh, spots to go and draft Jameson Williams, who is another receiver who has torn his ACL, but also has a crud ton of potential. Incredible player, Jameson Williams. And sitting at, and then we got in the second round, as we got in that trade, the other pick that we got in the trade with the Minnesota Vikings, because we traded the Rams pick that which we got from the Matt Stafford deal, and in our second and third, we got the Vikings first and second. And so with the Vikings second round pick, we took Josh Pascal, a defensive end. This one's a defensive tackle, but he's a defensive end. Defensive end from Kentucky, who was the leader of the defense last year for the Kentucky Wildcats. This is a good player. I've watched the tape for him. He's good. There's no denying that Josh Pascal is a good player. I do think he is hurt though, so that definitely is disappointing for the Lions. But then in the third round, we got another good player in Illinois safety Kirby Joseph. So very impressed by that as well. But, for once, I look at their draft class. I mean, they drafted a tight end. They got a linebacker from Oklahoma State and then 2 other guys. But you look at really the entire the entire Lions draft class, and it looks good. And they have good players already on their team. And so I really think the Lions could finally do something this year with what they have. Now, of course, this is the Lions, so I'm going to take anything and everything they do with a grain of salt. But this is a good team. And I'm very happy to see the Lions actually looking good for once and possibly making some noise. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers' hometown. Obviously, no one likes Aaron Rodgers. It would be it would be awesome if he could just simply retire already. We all hate the guy. He's dating. What is he? He's dating a witch now. Literally, he is dating a witch. Like, seriously. Come on. Just retire and do the NFL a favor. Anyway, no one likes Rodgers, obviously. And so we'll just start with their free agency, of which included giving Rodgers the extension he wanted, which is very aggravating. And then they also signed Alan Lazard and Sammy Watkins. And they also, I think, traded for Randall Cobb. Or was that last year? I don't remember. But the big thing about and then they also got Robert Tonyan, and they've signed some other players, re-signed some guys like Preston Smith and Devondre Campbell, got Jair Alexander back, and they also signed Raziel Douglas. But the big thing for this Green Bay team is the lack of the lack of Aaron Rodgers' favorite receiver in Davante Adams. Yes, Davante Adams is gone. Shockingly, he is no longer a Green Bay Packer, as the Packers sent him away to the Raiders. So, Green Bay significantly lacked a receiver now. And then the first round went, as we look at their draft class, and they didn't take a receiver. They took 2 Georgia defenders, and Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, of which both are good players, but neither are a receiver. And then the Vikings shocked people again, as they already had made a trade earlier with a division rival, being the Detroit Lions, but now they make another trade with a division rival, letting another division rival get a receiver, of which they desperately need, as the Green Bay Packers would trade up 19 spots with the Minnesota Vikings to go and get Christian Watson, a receiver from North Dakota State. And then, of course, they would get a UCLA tackle and some other players later in the rounds. But I don't understand why Green Bay refuses to draft a receiver in the first round. They won't do it. And I mean, as long as they don't do, and as long as they continue to refuse to get themselves a good receiver, they're going to have problems. Now, I don't know what Christian Watson is going to do in the NFL, but I highly doubt that he's going to be another Devontae Adams type. It's hard to find those. So you should have drafted a first round talent when you could have, Green Bay, but they didn't. So I don't have high hopes for this Green Bay team. I think they'll probably flop because I mean their entire team was surrounded around the fact that Devontae Adams led the entire year. I mean Devontae Adams was the reason the team did so well, and now he's not there. And so I don't really see Green Bay having that great of a season. They don't really have anybody to replace them, so I am not high on Green Bay. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who I didn't mention earlier, but just like the Chicago Bears, are undergoing a head coaching change and GM change. They fired both and are replacing both. So the Minnesota Vikings are So the Minnesota Vikings will go over their draft class first, or not draft class, their free agency first with re-signing Kirk Cousins for a enormous contract, and re-signed Sean Mannion, a couple offensive players, but they really made moves on the defensive end with getting Jonathan Bullard and Harrison Phillips, along with Jordan Hicks and Zadarius Smith. Getting him was a nice signing for the Vikings, and then they also got Patrick Peterson back and him as well, and then they re-signed their kicker and punter. And then in terms of draft picks, they got Lewis Seen with their first pick after however many trades they made. Getting Lewis Seen as their safety, who is a good player from Georgia. And then a good corner from Clemson in Andrew Booth. And then they got LSU guard Ed Ingram. And then they also got another good defensive player later in the draft with Oklahoma linebacker Brian Asamoah. So I'm happy. I think the Vikings did themselves well. They needed defense, and that's what they really focused on. They didn't do much on the offensive end, and so they focused all their resources on the defense. That's exactly what they should have done, and it's much better. Now we'll see how it pans out this season, but I certainly think that the Vikings might have finally fixed their issue on the defensive end. I mean, it obviously was an issue last season, but the Vikings have done a good job with fixing their defensive problems, and we'll see if it can pan out this year. And the Vikings do themselves pretty well. So that's all I got for this video. I will see you guys probably next week, or maybe even sometime this week if we do some college football episodes. But that's all for me. Until next time, adios, everyone.